Hello, this is Shan Chandrasekar welcoming you to another delightful part of our programming. As part of our series, The Achievers, we featured some of the finest of people from around the world, especially presidents of nations, prime ministers of countries, extraordinary scientists, astronauts, highly accomplished people. We are delighted to present another great entrepreneur who has now become the Premier of Ontario, none other than the Honorable Doug Ford. What a pleasure to welcome you.
Well, it's a real pleasure, Shan, and thank you for having me in. And as I said when I came through the door, I apologize for my attire. I'm going to a barbecue, so we're just in the jeans and the golf shirt today.
No problem at all. It's perfectly all right. It's not what you wear, it's what you do that counts.
That's right.
Yeah, our congratulations to you because it's your anniversary, since you became the Premier.
Well, Shan, everything evolves around the finances of the province, and we inherited a real financial disaster, a bankrupt province that has the largest subnational debt in the entire world with a $15 billion deficit. So we went in there and we tackled that and found $3.3 billion of efficiencies. So we're bringing down the deficit. We also knocked off another $4 billion from the $347 billion debt. Wow. We're paying $13 billion a year just on servicing the interest on the debt, and it's just not sustainable for the next generation. So our government is really gearing up to make sure we have a financial, sustainable province for the next generation.
From what I understand, you've created something like a whopping 180,000 new jobs in the province.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about that.
Well, I'm a strong believer. You're an entrepreneur, businessman. I'm a businessman, and you have to make sure that your plan is always sustainable. And I always say government doesn't create jobs. We create the environment for companies to thrive and prosper. And what we did, we went in and we tackled a previous bill, Bill 148, changed the labor laws to make companies more competitive, hire more people. We also reduced the WSIB premiums by over 30%. We reduced taxes on small, medium, and large companies. But the number one issue that I'm hearing from companies is making sure we cut the red tape and regulations. So we put a team together to cut regulations by 25% by 2020. And we've created the environment for companies to thrive and really prosper and grow. Because I always say, Shan, when companies prosper, their employees prosper. But the number one issue, we've created such an environment to thrive, and 184,000 jobs. The number one issue is when I talk to owners of companies, we need more people. We have a labor shortage right now. And so I encourage everyone, go out there and the opportunities out there are endless for people to find jobs.
You ran a private business. What is the difference between running a business and running a government?
Speed on decisions. There's a lot of, when you run a business, you have your management team, you make a decision, you move forward. Yeah. In politics, we've probably moved quicker than any government, federally or provincially, in making changes to get the economy going, which our economy is booming right now. But it's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of hurdles, regulations, even within government. But we're making sure that we knock down the hurdles and the barriers for people of this province to prosper.
Ontario tax credit
Yes.
is quite popular, and among that, there's a term that I've just been recently told about lift tax credits and care tax credit.
First of all, there's a tax incentive for companies. Here's one that's $3.8 billion to help companies. We have a facility in the U.S., and we'd be able to go in the U.S., we have a business in Chicago, I'd buy a piece of equipment, and we'd be able to accelerate the write-offs immediately. Mm-hmm. But in Canada, we couldn't do it, or Ontario. Now we can do that. So we will make sure that the businesses can invest and start writing any of their capital equipment off. We're also giving a tax break to the most needy people in Ontario. Anyone earning $30,000 or less, they will pay 0% tax. It may not seem a lot to people, but it's $860, and when you're only making $30,000 a year, you give someone $860, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly looking at areas to reduce taxes, not only on individuals, but on companies, is a very simple theory, Shan, is if you put money back into people's pockets, if you put money back into businesses, they're going to go reinvest it. They're going to buy stuff that they might otherwise not be able to buy.
Stay tuned. We have to pause for these messages now.
Most countries, the prosperity is measured by the level of education
Yes.
of its population.
Yes.
And you've attached a lot of importance to education with respect to literacy level as well as skilled workers and training.
Yes.
So tell us about that feature.
Well, when we went in there, we want to go back to the basics. That's math, sciences, and getting our young people to understand it better, because our grade 6 students, 50% of them are failing math. 1/3 of the teachers teaching the math class failed the exact same grade 6 math test. We had the lowest rate in the entire country. We have to turn that around and focus on maths and sciences and on the skilled trades. We're going to get students right starting in high school. And they have a great program in Germany. I always believe in taking great programs around the world and adopting them into Ontario. Don't reinvent the wheel, as I always say. They start in high school. So we're focusing on young people and students in grades 11 and 12, for instance, to get into the trades. 1 in every 5 people are going to be involved in the trades by 2025. So we want to make sure they're geared for that and get proper training programs and skills training.
Very interesting. I had the honor of learning and being on the board of one of the finest hospitals here in Ontario, in Southern Ontario. And there I learned the importance of LIN,
Yes.
the Local Health Integrated
Yes.
Network. And you recently allocated whopping $1.3 billion to improve healthcare.
That's right.
And one of the biggest problems at that time that we had faced was really this hallway, healthcare services.
Yeah.
You've taken some initiatives to modify that, I believe.
Yes, we have. So when we traveled around the province and we talked to the doctors and the nurses, the previous government wasn't talking to them for 5 years. I'm a strong believer in talking to the frontline people. Let them come up with a plan, because no one knows their job better than the doctors know their job. So we put together groups of, I think, 8 to 10 people around the table and in different areas of expertise. They put together a great health plan with Dr. Ruben Devlin, who's heading up our health team. And that's how you make a transition. The doctors are going to help us find efficiencies. And our biggest problem is ending hallway health care. You'd go in with your loved one and you go in the hospital, you could be sitting there for 5 to 6 hours right across the province. We are going to make sure that we end hallway health care, so when you walk in, you're going to be treated. And one way we're doing it is by putting long-term care beds in. Because long-term care beds, a lot of people are in hospitals that should be in long-term care. And it's 3 times the cost to be in the hospital bed, and you're taking up a hospital bed when it should be in a long-term care bed. So we proposed, and we're doing it, 15,000 new long-term care beds in the first 5 years, another 15,000 in the following 5 years, and we're 1 year into it, and we already have 7,800 long-term care beds, and we're working with the private sector.
OHIP has always been looked up as an extraordinary service, whereas sometimes in the United States they don't even have the healthcare service that the province of Ontario provides. Have you ever been consulted by other countries to emulate the system that you have here?
We have. Other countries are always interested, even our U.S. counterparts. They're always interested in finding out how we deliver health care, but you have to take the best ideas from all over the world, because we do not have a perfect system, but we're trying to make it as perfect as we can. Again, focusing on the patient care. A lot of patients want to be treated in their own home. If they have a real illness that they may not have too long to be on earth here, they want to be treated at home with loved ones. So we're looking at home care, which is a very important aspect of our healthcare plan.
You were a successful city councillor for almost 4 years in the city of Toronto, which is the largest city in this country.
Yes.
You were also the vice chair of the budget committee, if I remember. How did that experience help you in your current leadership?
Well, it helped me tremendously on how government works, on how to go in, because the city was bankrupt as well. We went in there, and I'll never forget with Rob, the very first day we sat down with the CFO and the city manager, and they said, we're facing $774 million of pressure going into next year. You're either going to have to raise taxes by 20%, or you're going to have to cut. And what we did, we went in there, found efficiencies, and the first government in a long time, we delivered a 0% tax increase, and we balanced the books. And we did that for the very first time. We got their fiscal house in order. We went line item by line item, and that's what we did. We brought in a third party to verify our numbers were correct, and looked at efficiencies line by line, every piece of information we can get that evolved in the budget. We made sure that we reviewed it and tried to deliver a better system for the taxpayers of Toronto at the time.
It's interesting that you mentioned your brother's name, Rob.
Yes.
He and you created this Ford Nation concept that became quite a phenomenon.
Yeah,
so tell us about that euphoria that was created around Ford Nation.
Yeah, I find Ford Nation so interesting. I can't get my hands around it because it's so diverse. It's a snapshot. If you come to a Ford Fest, I always say it's a snapshot of Toronto, of GTA, and of Ontario. It's every race, creed, color you can think of, every political stripe, from Green Party members to NDP to Liberals to Conservatives. It's really a group of people that are tired of government wasting money. They want more transparency and accountability, and they just want to make sure that the representatives, they're spending their money a lot smarter than what we've seen in the past. But the other thing is, people from all around the world come to Canada for a better life. And a lot of countries, not all, but a lot of countries were at war, a lot of countries had corruption, and they couldn't believe when they came to Toronto, they could call up the mayor at home and he'd pick up the phone and he'd go visit them. And that's kind of how it started. It's letting the little guy have a voice. And a lot of times a little guy, let's say Mrs. Jones has a pothole in front of her house, and she kept calling the city, never getting it fixed. They'd call Rob and the pothole would be fixed the next day. And that's how it created customer service excellence, no different than our business.
Yeah. By the way, our deepest condolences to you.
Thank you.
When your brother passed away, that was quite a sad moment.
It was.
In the history of province of Ontario.
Yeah, Rob was like a rock star when he walked outside. We'd go to events, especially in the South Asian community. Like, they absolutely loved him in all communities, but especially the South Asian community.
Now for a short break.
In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that's facing the province?
Well, making sure that we maintain, and there's three areas that we focused on and what matters most to people. Healthcare is number one. Right. We increased that by $1.3 billion. Number two is education, making sure that we have the next generation ready for the real world, as I say, because it's evolving so quickly. We put another $700 million into education. And the third area is jobs, getting the economy going, making sure that we employ as many people as possible, because there's 184,000 people that bring home a paycheck today that never brought home a paycheck a year ago before we got elected. And that gives them self-confidence, and it also makes them feel great when they come home and they see their family and they have a paycheck. It makes a world of difference and gives them real confidence.
Tell me a little bit about your family. You just mentioned, because
yes.
You have 4 daughters.
I have 4 beautiful daughters.
That's lovely.
And my lovely wife, Carla, I give her all the credit. While I was traveling, building the business and involved in politics, she did an incredible job in raising 4 beautiful girls. I always joke around with my caucus. I said, if there was a minister of women's affairs, I should be in charge of it, because I know every woman's issue there is with 5 women in my house. But and they spoil me rotten, my girls. They're grown up now, and they take care of their dad, and I'm just so proud of each and every one of them.
That's wonderful. Majority of the people who are either premiers, prime ministers, cabinet ministers, they've all been here. When it comes to the issue of diversity, they all have almost a similar message, because everybody believes in it, which is wonderful.
That's right.
Political parties come and do major campaigns with us at the time of election.
Yeah.
They put paid advertising. We as a company, as an example, we are very proud. We have never taken a single cent handout. We are totally equity funded, and we're not taxpayer supported. We do not want any buy-through, pass-through fees.
Yeah.
We're not no handouts.
Yeah.
It's premium pay services that we have built across the country with a massive viewership. The reason why I'm taking time to explain this to you, political parties do paid advertising, but the moment they come to power, there is no government advertising, because they want to do it. They refer us to the agency of record. The agency of record conveniently just places it out to mainstream broadcasters where there is rating points, because over-the-air stations are rated by BBM or Nielsen.
Yeah.
That system has to be changed
It's
by
gonna be
somebody.
changed. By me.
I'm
By
delighted.
me. Because your coverage represents a big part of Ontario and Canada. And as far as I'm concerned, the mainstream media has tried to push you to the side because they want the viewership. But you're a true entrepreneur that has built this, and you have never asked for government money, unlike your
And we pay
counterparts.
taxes, millions
Absolutely.
of dollars in taxes that we have paid.
Well, we're going to make sure that we change those rules about just going out to the mainstream media, reach out to folks like yourself, and do a tremendous amount of advertising to the people of Ontario through companies like yourself.
That's very nice of you. It's not only for ourselves, we're speaking for as an industry,
Yes.
even our competitors in the industry, or anybody who is involved in third language radio, television, newspaper business. And again, we are not saying that you should not be in the mainstream.
That's right.
By all means, support
I understand.
CTV Network and Globe and Mail and Toronto
yeah.
Star. We have no problem.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, there's 14 million people whose mother tongue is other than English and French in this country.
That's right.
And I think we have a very significant role to play. Well,
Absolutely.
tell me about you running a business now in Chicago as compared to running it in Canada. What's the difference in mindset?
I think the mindset, the Americans are extremely aggressive, not in a bad way, in a good way. But they move very quickly. The market is 10 times the size of our market. And when I first went down there, I left on December 31st, New Year's Eve, 1998. And I stayed in a little hotel in Chicago, and I called my dad. I didn't tell my dad I was going down there, and I called him and said, Happy New Year. And he said, Where are you? I said, I'm in Chicago. He said, What are you doing in Chicago? I said, Well, we're going to open up in the U.S. market. And he said, Oh, don't worry about that. Take care of Toronto. And the best thing we ever did is open up in the U.S. market. We worked hard, expanded there. I looked at units on January 1st of 1999, a little 300-400 square foot unit. I told the real estate person that she was kind enough to show me around on New Year's Day, and I said, I'll take that unit. In less than 5 years, we moved 4 times into larger facilities. We were up and running 24/7, right around the clock in less than 4 years. And we just really took advantage of the market. Everyone said, don't go to Chicago, there's so much competition. And I said, that's the place I want to go. If there's competition, that means there's business, and there's employees that we can bring on to our company, and that's exactly what we did.
That's wonderful. You're truly down to earth.
Yeah.
You're not standing on formalities.
Well, that's the way we were raised, our whole family, and I give all the credit to my mother and my father. The other day I was driving along, and I saw a church picnic happening. So I just hopped out of the car and showed up and started to play basketball with with the kids, and I think they were a little shocked that I was there, and I didn't have any of my security detail with me, because I love the communities. We have a large South Asian community up in Ward 1 and Ward 2, and they've treated us like gold. I'll do anything for them. I absolutely love them because they're down to earth. They're hardworking people. They want a better life. They've come to this country, and there's so many true entrepreneurs that come here and start a little company and just grow into a large company like yourself.
Very kind of you. Well, it's been an honor having you in the program with
Yes,
us.
thank
Please
you.
convey my regards to Mrs. Ford.
I will, thank you.
And your family and your daughters.
And likewise
And
to
next
your
time,
family.
come with your family and visit with us.
I will. Next time I'll put a suit on for you.
And I'll come in jeans.
Okay, there you go.
It's such a
Thank you
pleasure
so
having
much.
you.